the lenses of living in dependence, which is a book we had out in 2019, examining the perspectives of global independence or interdependence, how countries relate to each other. We try to put together scholarly articles together. And I'm trying to look at how the various scholars factored in Africa's past quest for freedom, the present quest for freedom, as it relates to the current and future dispensation of international relations, if we would. And I start by pointing out, first of all, with generalities, that every generation, every nation, and every epoch has its challenges, hopes, aspirations, and expectations of the future. Africa is no exception. Africa has had its own share of tumultuousness that generated and still generate her past, her present, and possibly her future. And in spite of the turns of events in Africa, the tumultuous turns of events in Africa, neither Africa nor her stakeholders have given up. All right, all hopes for a better future, either for Africa or for the stakeholders. So in this presentation, all I aim to do is to demonstrate through a critical appraisal of living in dependence. And I would say why the in is in bracket and dependence, because it has the binary of independence and living in dependence, depending on the order. All right? And the heart of the matter in living in dependence is just the exploration of a possibility of global and peaceful coexistence between Africa, given its past, given its present condition, and likely what is going to happen in the future with the rest of the world. So I would like to uncover how how the future of Africa's past and present challenges account for its hopes, aspirations, expectations, and the place Africa will certainly make in the sun in the future global dispensation. As we've heard in the previous papers, be it the rivalry between China and the West, or the West and other players trying to have their own slice of the African steak. All right. One of the key questions I try to look at here is that, and I just want to make sure that we see where the writers in Living Independence went from. The factor in Africa's past with slavery, colonialism, independence, or I would say pseudo-independence, and today, crypto-colonialism. In as much as we have listened to presentations talking about maybe the Chinese bringing development, let's not forget that the modus operandi of the former colonial masters was the so-called French mission civilisatrice. That is, the colonial masters were on a civilization mission, changing today to a developmental mission does not really add something new. But the question I'm asking, right, is development without freedom. Is that what we want? Or we want both development that comes along with freedom? Those are some of the, that's one of the things. So if we're looking at Africa, historically, ethically, politically, psychologically, culturally, economically, and even philosophically, we would realize Africans, like all other human beings, have striven to be free of constraint. All they aspire for is freedom. Being free is a fundamental human aspiration and quest. And as such, humans, we know, I don't even know what I need to tell you about the wars fought for independence or wars of independence, all right? All in the name to get freedom. And the critical aces in living independence actually take a multidisciplinary approach to the interconnectedness of independence and dependence in every ramification of these words. Because there is no country, there is no continent, all right? Even if we want to align ourselves with Donald Trump and name some countries or some continents as whole countries and the rest, we realize that even the as whole is the most important part of the human biology. Because if you don't send out what you take in, you will be inexistent. So this simply led me to asking question whether people can be free if they live by excluding others. Can independence or dependence be explored simply as polar opposites, as Ferdinand de Saussure, the father of linguistics, posits? All right? We could equally ask the question, freedom and independence as binaries, are they not embedded in the word independence? Well, consequently, independence and dependence are concepts of the future of African past. We know these have led to many pages being written. So, in addressing these issues in living independence, the scholars took the challenge. They took to challenge their preconceived notions or even their perceived notions about independence and dependence, and from their respective disciplinary discursive perspectives to highlight the fact that independence encapsulates that which is most fought for or fought against, which is the idea of dependence. Okay, I'll strive to be quick. I'll simply have to. One of the things we tried to do in this work was to find out if writers or a novelist can create a universe in which the characters enjoy total freedom. In our world, is there any such thing as total freedom? We know very well that our world is one of interdependence and cooperation. So, furthermore, this could have prompted what Ngere Woods asserted in his International Political Economy in the Age of Globalization, when he says, world markets and countries, local firms and multinational corporations which trade and invest within them are all shaped by layers of rules, norms, laws, organizations, and even habits. Okay? Therefore, to explore the future of Africans' past is to explore the binary of life experience of independence and that of dependence as constituent flip side of the same coin, and the meaning of which can only be grasped by taking a closer look at each facet. I'll skip really quickly. Given most of the papers we've listened to today, we realize in the circumstance the world is in, it could be said that nations enjoy ultimate freedom, but there is a challenge. Could you be free depending on others? So living in independence is about Africans suffering negative repercussions for someone else's actions. So the authors are concerned with how living without meaningful and altruistic connection can transform, alter, and damage one's character. Living independence is more than a book about political, economic, religious, linguistic themes, because it actually explores the psychology of dependence and independence from the perspective of the past and the future. The goal is to strive to examine how theories generated, have limitations to the possibilities of the much needed methodological innovations when the theorization of the lived experiences of dependence and independence do not aim at implementing lasting change. So I would rush to conclude. I'll just have to skip and conclude quickly by pointing out the fact that the Living Independence Project is all a project about constraints. If there is any problem that dominates the plight of the African, it is how he or she has limits, barriers, and obstacles to overcome. And the minority-majority boundaries become thresholds or vestibules of meaning that must be crossed, erased, and translated in the process of articulating equality and difference. But there is one thing we realize in the relationship between Africa and the rest of the world. It is the jealous phase of cultural boundaries that transform the problem of outsider, insider, into a process of hybridity and limits into the in-between spaces or zone, not making it not only zones of transition, but also of transaction, through which the meanings of cultural and political authority are and must be negotiated.